This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
Season 3 of The Pass is here. I know it's long overdue. We have a new intro. We still got the same content. Well, actually, it's a little bit of new content because there's new things going on in 2019. So buckle up. We got a lot of things to talk about on The Pass. What's up, y'all? What's going on? Episode 268 of The Pass is here. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm your host, BT. Normally, I would get on and get the Instagram live going and get stuff set up. But as you can tell by the date, today is Thursday. So we're doing a crunch show since I am actually going to be working this weekend. That then means that a show has to go on. And as my listeners are aware, I'm not leaving content on the table. So we're going to make our best to get through this show and coast through everything that has occurred in the wild world of sports, music, video games, and technology. If you are new to the show, welcome. If you've been here before, y'all already know what time it is. So I'm not going to really give y'all much of a play-by-play background. We're going to get into last week's sports updates in the NFL. I guess we almost can call this the pick section. We'll call it NFL picks, go over the picks, and then go over fantasy league because that's kind of the easiest way for me to do it and not have everything get all mixed up and jumbled. And last week in the NFL, I think every team made it their goal to kick my ass. And I'm just going to say it like that because it was that kind of week in picking teams. I don't know what it was. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. But everybody that I thought was going to possibly play good did not. I was given, you know what? Let me backtrack because I'm saying it like I was giving flack, but I really wasn't. I gave one of my boys a hard time because we're both Carolina fans, and I picked against Carolina for Green Bay. Carolina almost won the game, but Green Bay won it. So if I had that game picked wrong, it would have made for a very rough week. Even though the week itself was rough, I did go 5-7. Overall, my record is 72-51-1. And for those keeping score, the winning percentage, I have that link always in the show notes as well. Well, I don't have it as a show note link, but I do have it as a link that I keep available. I've dropped to a whopping 58.06%, and it's just getting worse and worse by the week. Today, I get a little bit of a redemption because I actually get to select the game for Thursday night, and I'm hoping that I'll have the show uploaded by the end of the night. So if it intertwines with what happens, I've already recorded, and that'll kind of be my proof that I didn't call the game before or after. So I'm going to add that game, and hopefully that could give me a little bit of a spark, but we don't know. So without any further ado, let's do what we do and do a horrible job of picking weekly picks. I do believe, so before we start, I will go ahead and make it clear that the Giants, the Packers, the Seahawks, and the Titans all have a bye week this week. So that will kind of give a little bit of a leniency on picks and selections, but we'll still see how good or how bad I am at doing this. So let's do it. First up, Thursday night, Pittsburgh is going to be playing Cleveland. I would normally be easily turned on and intrigued to pick Pittsburgh. Well, for some reason, I just got a weird gut feeling that Cleveland is going to come off of a short week and possibly play good at home. Who knows? But we'll see if I'm accurate in assessing that. So I'm going to pick Cleveland for that matchup. Going into the Sunday games, the morning cap or the early games, Dallas plays Detroit. Picking Dallas. Still, Detroit hasn't really shown me much to change or prove otherwise. Jacksonville at Indianapolis might be strange to pick, even with them not being in their best of state. I'm going to pick Jacksonville for this game if I can learn how to spell and not sound like I'm typing like my life depends on it. Before we continue, I am doing a bit of a different scene of recording. So I'm not recording like most people know. I normally go to the library, record, set up and do all that. Today I'm home, I'm chilling, I'm lounging, and there will be a lot of transparency in this podcast, and I'll just leave it at that. And I'll go into that further as we continue. Continuing into our matchups, Denver at Minnesota. Even with Minnesota losing their game, I believe they won I think they won their game last week. I don't recall because it's been like one of those type of weeks for football. Let me double check. I believe, Minnesota won last week because I think they played Dallas. I'm gonna pick Minnesota for that game to continue to ride the wave of winning. Houston at Baltimore. This story, and this now I understand because there was a conversation that went up in my sports group about Deshaun Watson against Lamar Jackson. Like, who would you start a franchise with? And a lot of people said Watson. And it kind of just made it interesting because we really forget or don't realize that LaShawn Jackson is actually not a bad quarterback. He's been put into a wildfire and he's just kind of produced and nothing's been broken. So I'm going to take Baltimore for this game and hopefully they don't let me down. Continuing into our more of our 1 o'clock matchups, the Jets play the Redskins. These are those games where you're just like, I'm just going to pick somebody and hope something happens. So I'm going to pick the Jets for this one and see if I'm lucky. Rivalry battle combined, rivalries beginning and tension mounting because I've already gotten at least 50 tags from fellow Falcons fans. Atlanta plays Carolina. It's in Carolina. This is probably that time when I'm taking a chance and I'm going to see what happens, but I'm picking Carolina for that game. Buffalo at Miami. This game is kind of interesting for two reasons. One, Buffalo has the better record and Buffalo actually has been playing pretty good football. We just haven't talked about it a lot because it's Buffalo. But on the other side, Miami's on a 2-game win streak. So I don't know how to feel about this one. I would normally be fooled into taking the obvious pick, even with it being in Miami. But unless something stupid happens, and unless Buffalo just decides to throw the game or something, I don't know. If Dallas goes, if Miami surprises me and puts Rosen in the game, then I could be more confident in this pick, but I'm still going to pick Buffalo regardless. New Orleans goes against Tampa Bay. And I mean, what is there not to say about New Orleans right now? New Orleans, Breeze is back. They've been playing pretty good football and they're kind of running away with the division early on. So I'm going to pick New Orleans for that matchup. Sliding into our 4 o'clock games, San Fran took their first loss and non-49ers fans made it clear how much they were glad that they took a loss. And of course, it led to the infamous Miami undefeated team popping bottles when they know that there are no other undefeated teams left, which I think is stupid, but that's another story. But for this one, Arizona's been kind of playing mediocre. Let's just call a spade a spade. And San Fran, I mean, coming off of that loss, I think they're going to send a message to let people know, like, okay, that was one game. We're human, but we can actually play football. Just give us a chance. So I'm picking San Fran for that one, and that's just all I got. New England goes against Philly. New England is still the team to beat. Until otherwise noted, you still got Tom Brady in the backfield. And Philly's been playing good ball, but I'm going New England. That's kind of my cut and dry pick that I can give for that. Cincinnati at Oakland. Cincinnati still has not won a game, by the way. I just want y'all to remember that. And that's kind of it. So unless something crazy happens, still picking Oakland or still picking against them until they show me otherwise. Weird matchup for the 8 o'clock game. Chicago plays against the LA Rams. might surprise people. Even with it being a road game, I'm going to pick Chicago. That'll probably be my one wild pick for the week. And finally, the Monday night game, Kansas City at the LA Chargers. Barring nonsense or confusion, I'm going to pick Kansas City for this game. Hopefully, Mahomes comes back into a better form this week than he did last week. Those are my picks. Never get them right, but we'll hope that it just continues down a positive slope from what we experienced last week in football. Before I continue into our other stories, I do want to go ahead and give y'all the update on Fantasy League or my fantasy basketball, because I really don't do fantasy football too much, but basketball I kind of can hold my own. And I'm playing against the Richtown Tony in our group. And so far I'm ahead 611 to 276. Yesterday was a cheat code because I had James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, who both played against each other and both actually had pretty good games. Harden had 47. Kawhi Leonard had 26. I also was able to get a big production out of D'Angelo Russell and Ryan Hachimura. And Marc Gasol actually gave me 24, which was helpful. My one regret, and I didn't notice it until just now, is that I had Jonathan Isaac on the bench. So that was 26 points that I didn't make. So I made up for it with Glenn Robinson coming in, getting me 24. So all isn't bad. Right now I am 2-1, which is not too rough in the group. The one loss I took was against the other moderator of our group, A Space to Sport, and he literally had Anthony Davis just go ham. So what was I to do? And that's just kind of what it is. But moving forward, I didn't want to forget or ignore this story because it is relatively fresh and it is kind of insane, but we're going to talk about it because it's here. And that's about Dion Waiters, who was suspended 10 games following his character and his demeanor on a flight while traveling from Phoenix to Los Angeles. He was confirmed, or it was stated that he had consumed a THC infused edible, and it was from gummies. The Heat did not provide any comment on the incident, but announced the suspension the following day. They're disappointed with his actions. I'm going to not article this one. I'm going to paraphrase and I'm going to talk about some stuff on this. Dion Waiters has been trying to find his way into the NBA for quite a while. If you go back to when he was with Cleveland, him and LeBron didn't really mesh because it was LeBron's team, but he thought he was a star when he wasn't. And he's kind of shot himself in the foot with opportunities. So you would think this opportunity would be the time to get it right. And doing something of this magnitude makes it look bad because it was just on the basis of him eating. He had basically, they said they were edibles. It was a gummy, like some gummy bears or whatever. The amount was not stated. They're not going to provide that information, but more so his actions while on the flight is what deemed the suspension. He's in a tight spot with this because if it gets worse, not even if it gets worse, but if he misses more games or misses a larger amount of time because of this incident, it could affect his possibility of, one, getting paid by the team, or two, and most importantly, remaining a Miami Heat player. So this is something that may not seem like a lot right now on the immediate surface. In hindsight, this really could play a big impact. And this is the adjustment of recording outside of the library. But we're going to continue. So it's just mainly that whole demeanor and all of that occurring that is affecting this right now. And it's tough because right now he's in a tough, and even talk about this in the story, Tyler Hero has kind of come in and just stepped up. And I mean, he's a rookie, but it makes it look bad because here it is, you are the guy. And you're supposed to be teaching the rookies how to do work. And here it is, you doing dumb shit like this. So it makes it look bad for you as a player and as an athlete. And so we'll see after the 10-game suspension if he can turn it around or if he is possibly trading material come trade time. So don't be surprised if you hear his name as a possible trade in trade rumors. continuing forward, it looks as though the Memphis Tigers, the story with Memphis has continued. We initially got word last week that James Wiseman was considered ineligible, and he was considered ineligible by NCAA. And Anthony Hardaway decided it was in his best interest to let him continue playing, which he then went on to play 2 games. He played the game that night, and then I believe he played a most recent game against Oregon. And now, because the NCAA is still trying to process the flow of reinstating him, Memphis has went ahead and pulled the plug on this in making him ineligible for right now. This looks bad. And I'm going to kind of talk about this. The article that's shared, like this story literally just broke like maybe an hour or so ago. Memphis Tigers star freshman James Wiseman has been declared ineligible by the university and will be withheld from playing while the school applies for reinstatement from the NCAA. Memphis noted he will continue to practice while he awaits a ruling. Memphis has withdrawn its lawsuit against the NCAA. His attorneys confirmed to Shams Charania of the Athletic and Stadium. They also released a statement regarding the situation. And they just kind of give the statement itself. If no one is not aware or is not surprised, James Wiseman is going to the NBA next year. It's no point in staying at Memphis. There's no point in him going overseas to play basketball. If anything happens from this, and this is probably going to be the worst comparison because Billy Preston went through this, and I don't even know if Billy Preston is in the roster rotation for the Cavaliers right now. But I know for a fact that it's a messy situation that could have been handled better and just managed more properly. That's kind of like my dance around, but my blunt way of saying, like, they look bad. They basically, to say it without saying it, the NBA, well, not the NBA, but NCAA looks really bad on this, and Memphis looks even worse on this because we really don't know if there are any other players that could possibly be involved in this type of a experience or situation. And you can't really process or figure out why, but you just know it's here. And I went back because I'm doing research as I'm talking about it. Billy Preston is currently playing in the G League, which tells you a lot because he was a top recruit in high school. To get to Kansas, the car incident happened, didn't look right. Kansas didn't know what to do. They get him off the team. He goes overseas to play basketball. You really didn't see much of him playing overseas. He gets a spot to try to play in the NBA. He plays on a couple summer league teams, and he's in the NBA for a bit. Like, his rookie year was kind of okay, but now it's like he's gone. And a lot of times the tough part about it is when you get to I don't want to say the mid-professional level, but when you go semi, because in a sense, like, the G League is still a pro league, but it's semi-pro in a sense because you're getting exposure as far as getting to an NBA team, but a lot of guys who get to the G League don't make it back to the NBA. I'm giving him, and I know I'm talking about him, but more so for Wiseman's sake, I just hope that Wiseman does not come into the NBA rushed and a bust. The early stakes or the early statements are that he's a number 1 pick. It's gotten to the point, and it's so, like, this coming draft class is going to be tough to assess because, one, we're not seeing a lot of these guys really show what they can do. Tyrese Maxey, in the Kentucky game, they played against Evansville. He had a clutch moment to possibly tie a game against Evansville, which was ironic because I didn't realize until seeing that matchup that Walter McCarty was the coach of Evansville, and Walter McCarty previously played for Kentucky and actually won a championship with Kentucky. So it's just interesting how worlds collide and how things come full circle. But I know that's still spinning away from James Wiseman. Memphis, hopefully they will get this all resolved. If anything, Memphis is probably going to get slapped heavily for this, and no one's going to acknowledge it. And I know I talked about the college depths of the upcoming class, but that's kind of sending me way off course from talking about where we are right now with the situation involving the Memphis Tigers. So hopefully they can figure this out and get a resolution in place to not leave Memphis short. But on the same token, if Memphis wants to be a reputable school, and most importantly, if Penny Hardaway wants to keep his job as the coach at Memphis, they would abide by the NCAA guidelines. And that's kind of what makes this a very slippery slope. And a friend of mine even talked about this yesterday, because I was joking when I made a statement about he does media work for VCU. And I just was being silly. And I know it's something I would never do, but I was like, yeah, go to the game and record, and just happen to be recording a live stream of the game. And he was like, no, NCAA. And I was like, I know that. And even being a media personality, or a form of a media personality, you have to be cautious and cordial in what you say or what you do. And this is probably going to be an early gem before I get into the next topic. A lot of times it's assumed or perceived that when a person has a form of a platform known as a podcast, that you're expected to be filtered and you're expected to not say what you feel. But depending on the contract, the stipulations, the rules, the process, etc., that's total bullshit. And it's only because as people, we have our voice, but you also have to be sure that what you're saying adheres to what makes sense, and not just you flying off the handlebars and hoping that somebody gets where you're coming from. And that's something that's done well, but not done right by some platforms. And that's just all I'm going to say about that. Because I know that'll send me way down. That'll send me down a whole other path that I don't even want to dance into. But I digress. Moving forward. And as you can see by the title, Colin Kaepernick, quote unquote, has a chance, or is being given a chance. Saturday, the NFL has provided the option to, on Tuesday, teams were informed that there will be a private workout for Colin Kaepernick this coming Saturday in Atlanta. They've talked about this a little bit more, and the initial article that I have kind of gives the basis, but more information came up. He's not going to be aware of what teams are going to be there. They're not disclosing. Now, I'm not sure if they've confirmed, if they may not have this in here, but they don't have a time period of how long he will be able to practice, or really what we're going to see. The tough part about doing an open practice is that it's showing you almost being an NFL combine person trying to prove why you should be able to play for a team. And let's face it, the NFL, I've said this time and time again, the NFL is going through a very weird state with quarterbacks. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. A few years ago, Peyton Manning retired. A few years from now, Eli Manning is going to retire. Let that sink in for a second. And I'm going to explain why that's important. As of right now, the best quarterback in the NFL, regardless of how you feel about him, or no matter what your stance is about it, is Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a very talented quarterback. He has a great O-line. He has the tools and the pieces to get what he wants and where he's trying to go. All right, bet. Now let's get into the gist of it and where it gets fun. You now have other players or other quarterbacks who are getting close to Father Time fighting them, such as Drew Brees. He has a couple years left. Andrew Rod. I don't know what I said. Aaron Rodgers is in his phase of not declining, but he's hitting his prime stride. Russell is still strong in his prime. Cam Newton, even as a Panthers fan, we got to face it, his decline is starting to happen just based on health and durability. And you're kind of going through that, what we call the quarterback passing of the torch. There are a lot of good quarterbacks that can play, but there are not a lot of good quarterbacks available in the NFL. Just something to think about. So with that all being conjured up and put into place, that then places, where do you put your stars or individuals such as a Colin Kaepernick? Kaepernick can get a job in the NFL. It's just a matter of, do teams really want him on their team? This is very methodical, but it's something that we're really going to keep an eye on. And I'm only saying we're keeping an eye on it because today's Thursday. In a few days, the open practice will happen. I personally don't think there are going to be a lot of teams there. I also don't know, even after him doing the practice, what will be learned from the practice. That just leaves it as an open space saying that. This is probably that way of trying to build a step or put a bridge or a wedge in between this occurring, but I don't know if it means that once this is done, he's going to get a team's going to make him an offer. I don't know. It's an opportunity, but just like any opportunity, he's showing a practice run for the sake of almost it being an interview. And he's interviewing, but you don't know who's going to be at the interview. You don't know what teams are coming. They haven't disclosed what teams are coming. They're not even sure, not giving that information. You know what? Okay, this is a good way to say it. Now, I'm not going to harp on this too heavy because I do want to get into some of the other topics. This is almost like you're being told that there's a job fair and you don't know any of the companies that are there. So it makes it challenging for what to prepare for when you arrive to the job fair. Meaning, if I go to this job fair as an IT professional and there are no IT companies or no companies even interested in hiring for computers or IT, then I'm wasting my time in even going through the process of going to the job fair. I mean, it's a beneficial job fair to attend because I'm looking for work, but I don't want to look for work thinking that I can get to a company to possibly get an IT job and I never get that job. And that's kind of what this is. Let's say, okay, for the sake of conversation, we look at, and I don't want to be on this too long. We'll say the Browns, the Jets, the Redskins, the Giants, the Dolphins. I'm naming 5. All the teams that have records where they're under 500 right now. Those teams come to the camp, or they come to this practice workout. If none of those teams are looking for a quarterback, even though they have quarterbacks on their team that could possibly be the future, it makes it a tough situation because Colin Kaepernick could be the guy to go to a team like, say, Carolina. But if Carolina's not there, then what? Eric Reed has given his voice on the matter, saying that he feels like it's a bit of a stunt, or it's a bit of a he thinks that he's looking at it as it being a PR stunt. And to some degree, he might be right. It's tough to not disagree with him on that. But it's an unfair situation because at the end of the day, like anybody else, he wants an opportunity. I'm going to get his article up really quick. And I'm going to go back to the other article because I'm doing, like I said, this podcast is going to be one of my first times where I'm not really I'm not quote unquote articling you to death, because that can get kind of draining, and I don't want that to be what this podcast or platform provides. Of course, they won't let me read it. Let's see. Carolina Panthers safety Eric Reed, a friend of Kaepernick's and an ally on social justice causes, gave a voice to those concerns with reporters that at Wednesday's practice. Let me go back. Let me start from the beginning. When news broke on Tuesday that the NFL would host a private workout for Colin Kaepernick to showcase his abilities to NFL teams this weekend, one prominent concern echoed widely. Why on Saturday? NFL teams and their coaches will be focused on Sunday games while scouts will have commitments to watch college football players. The timing raised scrutiny about the legitimacy of the workout. Kind of understand that, but you also can kind of get away with it because it's not like a team only has one scout. They can get multiple scouts to handle the NCAA aspect as well as still handle the professional aspect. Eric Reed went on to give this statement. At this point, I'll believe it when I see it. It feels like a PR stunt again, with it being that it's on a Saturday. What decision makers are going to be able to attend that workout? The other strange thing I saw, it was reported that teams were interested in Colin, but they reached out to the league about it. That's strange, so we'll see what happens. What head coach or GM will be available? While remaining skeptical, Reed expressed confidence that despite who does or doesn't show up, Kaepernick will be ready to perform. And he went on to say, it feels like the same play from the NFL. It feels disingenuous. They told Colin that he has the opportunity and that the league will send representatives from each team, but it's the Saturday before a game. Teams are traveling on Saturdays. What head coach or GM is going to be able to make this trip? But as far as I know, Colin is going to be there and he's going to perform because I know he's ready. And they kind of give a little bit more information in that article. So I'm gonna save this and I'll have this article in the show notes as well. And I'm trying to see if there's anything. Yeah, so November 12th, the article or the story released. I'm just getting word from my representatives that the NFL league office reached out to them about a workout in Atlanta on Saturday. I've been in shape and ready for this for 3 years. Can't wait to see the head coaches and GMs on Saturday. It did come as a surprise. The workout, sources told ESPN that Kaepernick and his reps were alerted to the workout at 10 a.m. Tuesday ahead of 4 p.m. Eastern Time personnel notice that was sent to teams. When notified, the quarterback's reps asked for the workout to be on a Tuesday, which typically is when the NFL workouts take place because head coaches and general managers can more easily attend. On Saturday, almost half of the NFL teams will be traveling to games, and most of the rest of the coaches and players will be heading to their team hotels to prepare for their games the next day. But the NFL said the workout had to be on a Saturday. When the league was asked whether it could be on the following Saturday, by making it this Saturday, the 32 teams have only about 3 days to make a decision on whether to attend and whom to attend. The NFL said no and didn't provide a reason. Sources told ESPN that the league office said none of the 32 teams had been made aware of the workout before the memo was sent when Kaepernick's representatives asked whether a team or teams had asked for the workout. We can't tell you that, the reps explained. Because of the shroud of mystery around the workout and because none of the teams had been informed before Tuesday, Kaepernick's representatives began to question the legitimacy of the workout and the process and wonder whether it was just a public relations stunt by the league, sources told ESPN. And they go on to just kind of get more information about that. Kaepernick's only 32. So in NFL years, he's still kind of young. But it still looks kind of bad because it's just the timing of this couldn't have been any worse. I think that's the walk away from it that makes it kind of frustrating. So that's kind of the cleanest and the calmest story I can give on the whole Kaepernick getting a chance. Do I think any representatives from teams will be there? Yes. Do I think GMs will be there? Kind of a stretch. All depending on them being able to attend this and still be able to attend their actual team activities for the weekend. Because and this is something that I'm just thinking about just now. If the media is doing, let's say you have to do media events or media talk on that Saturday, there's a certain time you have to be available for that. So if you're not available for that, but you're at this workout now, unless the media happens to meet them at the workout, then it kind of looks like, okay, y'all are working with this and you're making it a win-win situation. But if it's being done out of spite and you're just doing it in that moment, and teams could possibly get fined for not attending a specific meeting or a specific media day or something, then I'm going to have my concerns about it. We're just going to keep an eye open and see if the league is actually going to stick to their process and go along with this being players, like actual GMs are going to attend. I just don't know if I see it happening because of how much the NFL, even though it's not considered, even though the NFL won't admit at any point that they blackballed them, this is kind of like another smack in the face to the team and to Colin Kaepernick as a whole. Just my opinion, of course. This story is interesting, especially following the World Series ending and just baseball, like teams trying to do whatever they can to get ahead. One of the former pitchers for the Houston Astros, Mike Fiers, confirmed that teams would steal signs with a camera. So the Houston Astros used a center field camera to help steal signs during the 2017 championship season. This was told by Mike Fiers to The Athletic. A practice that would have run afoul of rules against using technology for an advantage and has prompted an investigation. So does that mean that they're going to take away the championship from Houston? It's an early slight, but it's something to think about. Mike Fiers, who now pitches for the Oakland A's, told the website that he warned teammates with the Detroit Tigers and A's that Astros hitters had used a video feed piped into a monitor near the dugout to decode signs and relay them to hitters during games. I just want the game to be cleaned up a little bit because there are guys who are losing their jobs because they're going to be in there not knowing. Young guys getting hit around in the first couple of innings starting a game, and then they get sent down, meaning they get sent to the minor leagues. It's BS on that end. It's ruining jobs for younger guys, the guys who know are more prepared, but most people don't. That's why I told my team. We had a lot of young guys with Detroit in 2018 trying to make a name and establish themselves. I wanted to help them out and say, hey, this stuff really does go on. Just be prepared. Later Tuesday, the Astros released a statement regarding the story posted by The Athletic. Earlier today, the Houston Astros organization has begun an investigation in cooperation with Major League Baseball. It would not be appropriate to comment further on this matter at this time. At the winter meetings, Astros GM Jeff Luhnow said the team wanted to gather facts before discussing the matter further. This is a long article, and I'm not going to read all of this article, but I'm going to say this. If this is the route and the path that we have to take to win, we're getting desperate. And it's going to look bad because if this comes up and actually becomes a true story, then it looks even worse because now here it is. You have players who are actually trying to earn a spot or earn their keep, and they're being cut short because of something as minuscule as play calling or exposing a team's way of a player's way of pitching or a style that just doesn't make the game look clean, and it's already tough as it is trying to uphold and maintain the cleanliness of the game. And that's kind of the best statement of all I'm really going to say on the message as a whole. We're now going to get into our stuff or our tech. This is going to be more of a tech heavy section. And before we get to it, because I'm going to go ahead and clear it up now, there's no new music. I just was given a tidbit of information to learn how to listen to music better because I've realized that I listen to the same type of music all the time and it's not good. So basically, I'm going to share this as a message to those who are fans of music and like listening to music. If you want to expand your listening or your horizon in listening, break out of your cycle and find something that you normally wouldn't listen to and give it a listen. You may be surprised by what you hear or what you enjoy. And I'll just leave it at that. Our first story is kind of I don't want to say a rewash, but a return of a story and kind of an update. The Motorola Razr has gotten this revision. We are getting a look of it now. Its design is all flat, all touchscreen, and it has, it has the looks of still buttons and volume buttons on the side, but the main screen itself is all touchscreen, and you have it's Motorola's jumping into the foldable wave, so it's a new old thing, I guess we can say. Few Razr phones were as iconic and as ubiquitous as the original Motorola Razr. Celebs use them constantly, fashion houses cooked up designer mashups, and it wasn't long before friends, family members, and coworkers all started carrying them too. The Razr was, in other words, an absolute phenomenon, and now it's back. As countless reports and leaks have confirmed, though, it isn't the Razr you grew up with, because that one wasn't as expensive as the price tag that I'm about to read to you. This new version, which will sell for $1,500 when it launches on Verizon next month, is Motorola's first foldable smartphone. And unlike any other foldable we've played with this year, it doesn't unfold into a small tablet. It doesn't pack loads of cameras or flagship components. It is, by Motorola's admission, a design-first kind of phone. That might sound concerning to some after a bit of hands-on time in sunny Los Angeles. People who demand peak smartphone performance or superior battery life might be a little disappointed. And I'm going to explain this before I read into this, because they may talk about this here, but I'm going to kind of give you a deep dive, but not a deep dive. Because of the compact size of the phone, you can't put a large battery into this phone, number one. Number two, by it being touchscreen, that's going to consume a lot of battery. And it also means that you won't be able to go as willy-nilly in usage of this phone, but you'll still get the same look and feel from the Motorola Razr days. The other factor with this too is it's going to look trendy and nice, but the cost of it is going to be the challenge, along with the fact that, and I'm just looking at the phone right away, and I always tell people this, and I know I've seen it on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I don't knock the guy for doing it. Phones need cases. You can say whatever you want. You can be as reckless and wild about not buying a case, and I commend you for it, but a phone belongs in a case. Everything has a place, and I'm learning that myself. But in this case, no pun intended, I don't see a case is going to be made for the phone. Let's put that out there. But a case that's going to fit the phone properly for the sake of its comfort, that's going to be the big challenge, at least from what I'm gathering or seeing so far. Motorola's priority here was to build the kind of foldable device that regular people would want to use. And despite some compromises, I think the company might be onto something. They give you a couple pictures of the new phone. They give you a little bit of a design breakdown, and it looks like a good phone, but I don't have Verizon, so it's not going to make a difference for me personally. But I do know for a fact that there are going to be consumers, or there are going to be people who are going to look at possibly wanting to get this phone. The battery life, it does say, is 2,510 milliamps. Let's see. And that's small, which as any of us know, most phones have like over 5,000. But there's also a win to that, because if you have a portable power bank, you can just plug and go. I'm going to go on a limb and hoping that, okay. Now the design, in looking at it folded, it actually doesn't look that bad. The notification screen on the front looks pretty cool. The form factor, as far as it looks like you could probably, my $1 million question that I'm looking at just from seeing it in its design is, can you take pictures without opening the phone? Because that's something that I'm always considering. I don't know. It looks like it could work. I might have just said this, or I was thinking about it. But I'm wondering if it's going to have USB-C capabilities, and I'm trying to look through it to see if it says that, and I don't see it right away. But I don't know. It's not a phone that I'm running out to get, only because I'm not looking at switching back to Android right now. The Notes and the Galaxy Wave are strong, but I've been like Apple for a while, and there's nothing that's really swayed me away from wanting to remain an Apple user. And that's just kind of what it is. So if you want to read the specs and get a full breakdown of the phone itself, the link is in the show notes if you would like to look over it and see if it may be the phone for you. If you're looking at trying to get a new smartphone and you want to get a break from other options. Continuing with tech, and coincidentally, since we talked about Apple has been around where now you can start looking over the years of your playlists and listens on Apple Music. Apple is debuting a feature called Apple Music Replay that features your favorite tunes from last year and every year that you've been with Apple Music. I'm not throwing shade, and it's not intended to throw shade. It's just to present the obvious. Spotify has had this feature, and I used it last year as a first year user, and I thought it was dope then. Now, they may have had it the year before. I don't know, because I wasn't with Spotify, but they kind of give you like most played songs for the year. So it's November now. I would say probably early to mid December, you're going to get those playlists to come up on Spotify as well. It creates custom shareable lists for each year and tells you which artists, albums, and songs dominated your ears. They're not set in stone either. Apple is promising weekly updates for the current playlist until the year is over, so you can start listening to your Replay 2020 playlist while you're still scrubbing New Year's champagne out of the carpet. Yes, it's ultimately another way to keep you subscribed, and it's a not so subtle riff on Spotify's own year in review offering. It's also, let me check, because they give an article. I wonder what it's for. Okay, Wrapped. So yeah, Wrapped is kind of what I used, what was used for their program. It'll also sound familiar if you use Spotify's 30-day repeat playlist. Still, it could be a valuable way to look back at the songs that defined your personal history and not just the broader cultural zeitgeist. This might be cool and I'm not sure because I'm interested, but if it's still a thing, I'm wondering if it'll show up while I'm going to pull this up now. Getting your playlist or getting your music to kind of read you and know you, whether you have or haven't used the program, is a very tough task, whether people know that or not. I'm looking at it now. Now, I'm probably not going to get it because I don't have an actual Apple Music subscription. But those who do have Apple Music, if you do want to go back and listen to like the music that you did listen to over the years, it will give you like that whole feel. And even the article admits it. And that's kind of what I'm looking at more than anything is, hey, just tell us that it's similar to what Spotify has already done. And I'm all right with that. And that's kind of it. Our final story is kind of a quick one, but it's a story that I did want to talk about, since it is, we're in this transition with listening, and people who listen to content don't just listen to music. People go on YouTube, people go on Instagram. They watch a lot of Instagram videos. They will get their content how they can. Obviously, how you're listening to this show is through podcasts, through a podcast program, whatever that platform may be. Spotify, Apple Music, Overcast, Acast, The newest one that I found, Pocket Cast, I think is underrated. Podcast Addict still, if whoever the developers are, and I'm asking this in the nicest way possible, if Podcast Addict could be swapped, if it's already available as an app on iPhone or iOS, my bad. But it would be so great if it was an iOS app to be cross-platform. Now, if y'all want to keep it as an Android exclusive, I got no knock against that. Because I do like Pocket Cast. I've kind of grown to love Pocket Cast since using it, because it kind of gives you everything in like a lineup of, hey, here's some podcasts that you need to go back and listen to them in your earliest convenience. And it's one of those things, if you don't listen too much or don't keep up with it, you'll get behind. Saying all that to say that Pandora has already had this feature where you could listen to podcasts, but now they're adding the podcast option to the actual web player and the desktop app. So if you have the desktop app, which I believe I have it on this laptop. Yeah, I do. You can go in and look under the app or the web version, and it will give you the option, just like you can go in and search by an artist. You can go in and search through Pandora by an actual specific podcast. So now you can, like, if you go, like right now, I'm on the web, I'm on the actual Pandora app, desktop app for iOS. When you search, it gives you the option to find by artists, songs, podcasts, and more. I've submitted my podcast on Pandora. I've not gotten a response about it. Maybe I'm just not good enough to be on there. I don't know, but I'm being funny in saying that. But if you start searching and if you put in the name, and if you, like, I put in Joe Budden and I type podcast, they probably don't have him up here, but because I know with some podcasters, it's going to be the exclusive setups. But Van Lathan, his podcast is up here. Wendy Williams or Big Boy Uncut. Certain ones who are able to get through on that platform are available, which is, I have no problem with that whatsoever, obviously. So Pandora did introduce a library of podcasts, which has grown from hundreds of shows to thousands. The service offered many of the most popular series. The sticking point was that support was limited to the company's mobile apps. To make it easier for listeners to catch up with their favorite podcasts, Pandora has added the episodic content to its web desktop app and web player, which is available to both free and paid users, which that's always a good thing, because a lot of people aren't going to there's no point in subscribing to Pandora's subscription if you're just getting a shuffle option, when you can get a shuffle option and you can get a shuffle option for free and skip songs as much as you would like through Spotify. You're not able to, I know Apple Music, you get the shuffle option, but you have to be an Apple, Apple Music subscriber. Amazon Music, someone was mentioning, and I guess I'm still learning the different streaming options, but Amazon Music doesn't have the streaming capacity of the amount of songs or albums. And I guess it's what people are looking for when they go on these streaming sites. So that's important too. Random transition, but just something I was thinking about. The company hopes to differentiate itself with the podcast Genome Project, which uses a mix of algorithms and manual curation to suggest both shows and individual episodes to listen to. Podcasts have been booming for over the last few years. Stitcher, Apple, Spotify. I can't forget Stitcher. Stitcher jumped into that podcast realm quick, because Stitcher before, and I was a hardcore Stitcher user when Stitcher was just doing radio option, but now Stitcher just kind of converted into podcasting. And I mean, you can also listen to the past podcasts on Stitcher. So if you have that app, definitely check it out. And plenty of others have been building out their services while Pandora seemed to struggle. Companies differentiate yourself. Pandora also offers some exclusive shows from Sirius XM hosts like Kevin Hart and Hoda Kotb, an upcoming scripted series based on Marvel superheroes. With Pandora having played second fiddle to Spotify for years now, the company may need more impressive features to attract users and retain existing ones. That said, selection and convenience are two of the more important elements for streaming services to cover, and Pandora seems to be putting more effort into both of those fronts. And that is kind of what gets people into or out of their different streaming platforms and options. And that's something that I've personally witnessed firsthand with how people consume their music, especially in a, hey, I learned about this song, I wonder what it's going to sound like. Let me pull it up on this said platform. And that's kind of what usually happens in most cases. If you go back and look at it with, say, when Pandora, there was a point when everyone had Pandora. Pandora was the Yahoo Music is today's Yahoo Music. If you're not old enough to remember Yahoo Music, look it up and you'll be shocked at how interesting that program was. And that platform kind of just transitioned, and it ended up becoming Pandora being the big wave. And Pandora did a lot of acquisition, and it helped them with getting their platform the proper foundation to get the exposure that it needed to be where it is now. And then you had other companies come in like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, things of that nature, where you can go into those specific platforms and just listen to whatever music you want and not just listen to certain songs. So some people, and this is something that's important to really note and think about too. Music can be listened in spells and in waves. Podcasts have to be listened in chunks of time. So if you're taking a long road trip, you're going to listen to a good show or two to kind of have that background noise. In some cases, you almost come out better with playing, certain podcasts, and the length of time of a podcast and your travels play a role into how you consume podcasts as well. So that's something to also look at or consider when you're looking into what you would play or want to hear for certain formats or performances or listens. We're going to jump into Ass of the Week in a moment. We have an Ass of the Week and we also have a Pass of the Week. And I just recently got a story of another Pass of the Week that I'm going to get into in a second, because it's still like when the story hit my phone, I was like, wait, what? Hold on. Like, let me come together and like figure this one out. Cause it really was, it blindsided me more than I was really prepared to like read it. But, by the time the story had announced, I was like, well, we're here now. So before I do that, let me get my little brief prep bit going, and then we will talk about this story that I just got, because it literally like just hit my phone. So I'm going to save that I'm going to save that Pass of the Week, for the last article. Let me make sure I save it. Okay. All right. So, and this story actually occurred when I was recording last week, but I didn't put it into last week's show notes only because of time, and I didn't really know the extent of it. So there was a missing Clark Atlanta student named Alexis Crawford. Her body was found in a DeKalb County park Friday afternoon. There were two people who were Crawford's roommate and the roommate's boyfriend who were arrested for the senior's murder. In a November 8th press release held at Atlanta Police Headquarters, Police Chief Erica Shields stood before a podium and stated, "I am so sorry we could not provide a better ending." Family members and loved ones of Crawford had held out hope for a safe return of the young scholar who was deeply cherished by many. Instead, prayers were met with the heartbreaking news of the 21-year-old being found alone, laying in Exchange Park in Decatur. "I love you, baby. Just come home," pleaded Bobby Wright, Crawford's father, just 4 days before the body was discovered. On October 27th, Crawford filed a police report with APD stating that her roommate, Jordan Jones' boyfriend, identified as a 21-year-old Baron Brantley, had kissed and touched her against her will. The police report of the alleged incident states Crawford, the roommate, and the roommate's boyfriend were drinking the night of the incident. Crawford stated Brantley rubbed his hands on her shoulder and kissed her neck. When she questioned him about his actions, he claimed to have thought he was touching his girlfriend. Crawford then left to go to her room. Brantley followed after her into her room and then her bathroom. Jones, who was 21, told police she went to the bathroom door and repeatedly knocked on it until her boyfriend came out. When he exited, his shirt was off and he stated he did not sleep with the victim before leaving the apartment in his girlfriend's car. Crawford was seen lying on the bathroom floor, only wearing her bra. She told her roommate she had passed out and did not recall Brantley being in the bathroom with her prior to blacking out. She was taken to Grady Hospital where a rape kit was administered. She went missing 3 days later. On November 4th, Atlanta police and canine officers canvassed the area surrounding Crawford's Heritage Station apartment. Inside, her cell phone, ID, and debit card were missing. Left behind were her cell phone charger and key to her apartment. Everything that you have is important at this time because we need to bring Miss Crawford back home safely to her family. Early in the week, police released an October 30th surveillance photos of the Clark Atlanta University senior at a liquor store on Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard. It was the last time she had been seen outside her apartment prior to her death. Jones, the roommate, told police she took Crawford to the liquor store around 11:30, but the next day Crawford was gone. Whether it's human trafficking, whether it's, God forbid, homicide, or just a missing persons, she's been hurt somewhere and is just laying there. You've got to locate her as fast as possible, said CSI investigator Cheryl McCullum when asked what her thoughts were on the student's missing status. It is just so important that we keep her name out there. We keep her face out there, added McCullum. And they're going to get more information regarding this story. This is a story that's hard to read and hard to talk about because it is a friend of mine had talked about how people in Atlanta, period, are acting crazy and doing like different ways to, get people hostage and catch them in the act or do whatever they're trying to do. And I'd seen someone or heard someone mention this story, but I didn't really look it up and know about it. And I was like, I'm going to find it and I'm going to talk about it on the podcast because rape is something that should not be treated lightly. And just in general, any form of harm or danger should not be treated lightly. To have someone go missing and you know that you did it and think that it wasn't going to come back to you and the pieces weren't going to play themselves out, you aren't doing it right. I send thoughts and prayers to her family, to Alexis Crawford, anyone that's at the Clark Atlanta University campus, as well as just anyone who is in college. Just be safe and be careful. Like, if you have to have the number available, keep a number or a phone or a person on hand that you can easily talk to and be available in case something occurs. Even if that person can't directly get to you, they know someone that can get to you. And just, ladies, be careful out here. Like, seriously. And I'm not just saying this as just a somber, mild thing because it is. I mean, it's the real world out here. It's 2019. Folks are crazy. Folks have lost whatever bit of their last mind they had. They can't. And that's kind of the best thing I can say in regards to that. One ass of the week, and I'm going to do something different because normally I would just go into ass of the week, but another pass of the week just happened. And I'm not really, information is kind of coming along as of right now as to what happened. This is going on in Santa Clarita, in California. As of right now, the shooter is, so this was an active shooter. The LA County Sheriff's Department is responding to a shooting at Saugus High School about 30 miles north of Los Angeles. The shooter in the Saugus High School shooting is dead. 2 law enforcement did confirm. At least 6 people have been taken to area hospitals. LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva just tweeted that the shooting suspect is in custody and treated at a local hospital. Let's see. Students had practiced active shooter drills before. Let's see. At least 6 people have been taken to hospitals. Here's what we know about the victims. The Mission Hills Hospital is treating 2 of the Saugus High School students. Hospital spokesperson confirmed. And the Valencia Hospital is treating 3 patients in critical condition and 1 other patient. President candidate California Senator Kamala Harris addressed the shooting at a high school in Santa Clarita, California. She called herself heartbroken and expressed gratitude for the first responders at the scene. Saugus High students say their friends are hiding in closets inside the school, and they're giving more information. I'm reading these kind of in reverse just to kind of give an overall scope of what has occurred. And there will be a news conference being held on this shooting within the next 15 minutes. So we're looking at probably a little after 1 o'clock Eastern time. So it's tough because I'm recording live. So you all are probably going to hear this later. But this story is kind of ongoing as of right now. And that's kind of all I have on that story. It's tough because I'm now left to do an ass of the week. And it's an ass of the week that is a trend for a while. And I'm still trying to gather my brain around people who refer to this term. But we're going to talk about it. Don Cherry, who was a well-known hockey name, was fired for an immigrant comment. He was fired by Sportsnet for his on-air remarks on Saturday, alleging that the country's immigrants don't properly honor fallen soldiers. Cherry used his Coach's Corner segment on Hockey Night in Canada to criticize individuals who didn't wear poppy pins leading up to the nation's Remembrance Day. The pins are sold by veterans groups and are worn to symbolically honor those who serve. I live in Mississauga. Why can't I read? I live in Mississauga, Ontario. Very few people wear the poppy. Downtown Toronto, forget it. Nobody wears the poppy. Now you go to the small cities, you people that come here, whatever it is, you love our way of life. You love our milk and honey. At least you can pay a couple bucks for a poppy or something like that. These guys paid for your way of life that you enjoy in Canada. These guys paid the biggest price for that. First of all, why you got this suit on is like loud, but we ain't gonna talk about that. After immediate backlash on social media Sunday, the majority of media reaction Monday morning called for Cherry's removal. By the afternoon, word spread that he had been fired. Sports brings people together. It unites us, not divides us. Following further discussions with Don Cherry after Saturday night's broadcast, it has been decided it is the right thing for him to immediately step down. During the broadcast, he made divisive remarks that do not represent our values or what we stand for. Sportsnet President Bart Yabsley said in a statement on Monday, Don is synonymous with hockey and has played an integral role in growing the game over the past 40 years. We would like to thank Don for his contributions to hockey and sports broadcasting in Canada. Cherry would not take back what he said. I know what I said and I meant it. Everybody in Canada should wear a poppy to honor our fallen soldiers. Okay, that's fine, but you don't have to wear for some people, for some reason. All right, you know what? I'm gonna close my tablet. And I'm going to use this moment to make this as an announcement to people who are listening to the podcast. and this has nothing to do with race. This has nothing to do with, this is just a general statement. One of the worst terms that can be used in any form of communication is you people. And it doesn't matter who you say it to. Working for a company and saying you people doesn't, calling to speak with someone from a company and you're upset about something and you use the term you people is very hard to embrace. What's even harder to embrace from that is if the person who's on the phone with you can tell that you're black and they refer to it as you people. This conversation and this statement of, fans coming in or people coming into a country or coming into Toronto and not buying a poppy pin or whatever. We are all people. Like, whether people want to admit it or not or fail to realize it, we are not from America. Like, we all came over from another country and we claimed America to be ours, but it's nothing. The things that people believe they own aren't owned. Some of it's inherited or some of it was just gained or attained through life. And you have to remember that if you're going to live and learn to live life the right way. This is kind of my passing message a little bit too, by the way, but I'm going to give a great passing message to let people know something that's kind of near and dear to me. We as people, as a whole, not just you people, my people, us people, whatever, people have got to do better with how they approach others in their demeanor and their statements. I get he felt how he felt and he was adamant about his approach, but you're on a public platform. Like, even with me managing and running a podcast, I still am very cordial and very professional with what I say, because I'm not going to say anything to risk my platform or risk my brand or risk anybody else's brand. And that's something that goes unnoted when you say or do things without really thinking it all the way through. That's my opinion. That's my perspective. I know I've said that's my opinion on everything, but that's just how I'm looking at it. My passing message that I'm going to leave tonight or today, whenever you listen to this show, is the only thing harder than holding on is letting go. And when I say that, I mean it in the sense of life is going to bring people into your life and they're going to be in your life for an intended purpose. Those people may still be around after that intended purpose has occurred, and you might be still sitting there holding the pieces wondering what happened. It's challenging not to do, but you have to move forward. And I never really understood that before, but I understand it a lot clearer now because I've always not known how to move forward because I will hang on to something. And I think this was one of the first moments where I got forced to move forward and I just had to suck it up and deal with it. And it hurt that I had to deal with it the way I did. But if I didn't, it wouldn't get me to where I am now. And it wouldn't have lit a fire to like push me to do better. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I hope everyone enjoys their day. I hope everyone finds something positive to do, something worthwhile to get into, find some form or some way to stay out of trouble. And most of all, if nothing else, pray over someone or pray over something. I started a challenge on Sunday or Monday, I believe, where each day I would just pray for something or pray for someone. Yesterday, I prayed over creators, and I didn't know how important it is to pray for people who are creators. And I know, like, I had a conversation with someone yesterday about religion and spiritual and believing in God and things of that nature. And it may not have been one of the most clear and concise conversations because everyone's belief is so all over the place. But we all know where we're trying to get to and what we're trying to do. And in most cases, the literal prime of plain objective is that we're all trying to live our lives to the best of our ability. But it's how we go about doing it that becomes important. So that whom or which you believe in, don't let others skew you away from that theory or that belief, because we all have what we're trying to work towards, and we all have what we're trying to reach for at the end of the day. And those who are around us will understand that, while others will be kind of holding their hands up like, I guess I'm still trying to figure it out. And it's going to happen. And it's just something that you kind of have to accept and realize comes with the territory. And that's all I got. I know I've talked y'all head off long enough, but I'm going to go ahead and close it out here. As always, continue to be supportive. Thanks for being positive and helpful in whatever you've said or done in giving any input to the podcast. And until next time, this is The Past signing out. Another episode is in the books. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. As I always share, if you'd like to get into podcasting, you can check out Spreaker.com. And if you're looking to invest in a microphone, or if you're looking to genuinely start with recording, I use the Blue Yeti microphone, but you may prefer to do the Samson Meteor. Just know that if it's your craft and it's something that you're meant to do it and do it well. That's my main thing to tell people about 2019. Do it and be reliable. Y'all take it easy.